Hi, this is John Nolenthal with Ohio Partners for Affordable Energy, and we are here today with our little Fireside Chat series called OPAE's Fireside Chats. And this was originally the dialogue with Dave, and Dave did these interviews really nicely. I'm kind of humbled to take it over from him, but we miss Dave every day, and we want to continue to bring this series to the members because it's just important that all of our members meet organizations that have similar interests, similar advocacies that our members have. So with that, I am here to introduce Susan Yager. Susan Yager is with the Ohio Poverty Law Center. Susan has had a long career in government affairs and in nonprofit. She's been with the Ohio Poverty Law Center now for looks like about 4 years, or you're going on your 4th year. And Susan, thanks for being here with us. We're looking forward to learning a little more about the Ohio Poverty Law Center.
Thank you, John. I'm happy to be with you today to talk a little bit more about our work and certainly how we partner with many of your member organizations.
That's great. Let's just start with a little background of the history of the Ohio Poverty Law Center. What are the things that you stand for and do?
So we work with the legal aid programs across the state. So we're a statewide entity that partners with all of the legal aid offices in the state. Many of those legal aid attorneys work with many of your members on issues in communities, particularly now with emergency rental assistance and those types of programs that are running in the communities. We advocate at the administrative level and in the legislature for issues that impact low-income Ohioans and marginalized communities. So we work on issues around housing, around access to healthcare, removing barriers to employment like record sealing. We partner with the Ohio Consumers Council a lot on utility issues before the PUCO. So just a whole range of issues that impact low-income Ohioans.
Gotcha. So what are some of the things that you guys are currently working on?
Well, one thing that will be a big issue for us in the next several months is working on the allocation of the American Rescue Plan dollars that the state still has to spend. So we certainly would like to see a couple of things happen with those dollars. In the near term, right now, the state has about $622 million in flexible dollars that they can spend. And we'd really like to see that invested in, immediate needs that we're seeing in communities, in particular, investing resources in food banks. As the cost of food is increasing, many families are still struggling and are going to their food banks to help make sure there's food on the table for their families. So, immediate investment in that. And of course, with the surging coronavirus or COVID cases, we know that many direct service providers and nonprofit organizations are struggling with their own staffing needs while they're trying to serve their constituency with the needs, whether it's housing or food assistance or just general financial stability. So we would like to see some of those American Rescue Plan dollars invested in direct service providers as well. And then, of course, one thing I'd probably like to talk more with you all about today is making sure all households are connected to the internet. That will be a big and important use of the funds that the state is getting, both the American Rescue Plan dollars and the infrastructure dollars.
Yeah, I mean, if anything has taught us, if there's anything that's taught us something from COVID, and there's lots of things that it's taught us, obviously it's exacerbated technology use, but it showed such a hole with people in low and medium income families being able to operate their daily lives without having good internet access.
And we really, saw the impacts of the digital divide during the pandemic with, kids in certain school districts just didn't have internet at their home, or their school district didn't have the equipment to send home with them in terms of laptops or hotspots. So we think of access to broadband in terms of the actual connectivity, the cable, or the the infrastructure that's needed to connect people. And in Ohio, there's more than 1 million households that aren't, or 1 million people who don't have access to the internet. Before the pandemic, the data showed that 2/3 of Ohio households without broadband had household incomes below $35,000, and nearly half of those had incomes below $20,000. So
what are some of the things that the community action agencies can help with regards to that effort of broadband expansion?
So, like I said, the state had in the budget did allocate money to expand service to unserved areas, but they didn't really address the affordability. So I think we're continuing to advocate for ways to make sure that there are programs to help families afford their broadband service. Fortunately, I can talk about a couple of programs that were a part of the infrastructure bill that I think it would be great for your members to know about as a resource for their clients and the constituents that they serve. It had some money for a short-term fix, and it was called the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. And this was established through the FCC that allowed customers of participating internet service providers to get up to $50 a month towards their internet bill or their broadband bill. And that was, a great program to have during the pandemic. It actually goes through March of this year, March 1st of 2022. About 400,000 Ohioans took advantage of that program while it's operating. So that was a great help to have people have access to affordability program.
Yeah.
But there's a new program that will kind of take over the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program in March of this year, and it's called the Affordable Connectivity Program. And this is through the FCC as well, and it will provide a $30 per month discount for internet service for eligible households. And it will serve families up to 200% of the federal poverty level. So this is it's expanded eligibility from the previous program. We're hoping that since it's a longer term program, we can get more internet service providers to participate in the program so that the eligibility will be available to more families. So I think that's something that can really be helpful moving forward, that it might be a more established program that we can see really be long-term through the FCC and those internet service providers. Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about the child tax credit. As you've probably heard or read in the news, this did expire in December when Congress wasn't able to seal the deal on the Build Back Better plan. The expanded child tax credit expired, and eligible families, and that was about 1.25 million families in Ohio, received monthly child tax credit payments. And they were receiving $300 per child for younger children under the age of 6 and $250 per child for ages 6 to 17. So it was an investment in families, that children, and extra cash that they had each month to help pay their expenses. And, what the data showed is that families with incomes below $35,000 did use their money on basic needs. They, the most reported use of the child tax credit money was on food. So we talked a little bit before about the strain on food banks right now. I think with the rising costs of food and commodities, it's a struggle for many families to keep food on the table. So 60% of the recipients of the child tax credit said they used the money on food. The second most noted use of the money was on utilities. And then right under utilities was rent or mortgage. So it's, food, utilities, and rent. And that's what that child tax credit money went to. So we are continuing to advocate, if the entire Build Back Better package can't be passed, at least, we're imploring Congress to extend the child tax credit because it did lift children out of poverty.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say one other thing we need to look at following the pandemic is the disparities in access to healthcare. Just not, there are certain communities that just have less access to healthcare. Different populations have less access to healthcare. So that is another issue that we will need to address as a state and as a country going forward. We saw the disparities in access to healthcare, the disparities in insurance coverage really, be exacerbated by the pandemic.
Very good. Well, I want to thank Susan Yager for joining us here today from OPLC, Ohio Poverty Law Center. And we'll be back next month with another OPAE Fireside Chat. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you to all your members for the work they do in their communities.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.